Hey, bro.
Alright.
This is mine.
Yeah, so what? Isn't this different from last time? I'm sure the poster was different before.
Yeah, this is brand new. It's the first day I brought this poster out, actually.
Right.
New poster. Because I'm trying to take people away from the programmed debate about, or argument over Earth being flat.
Right.
Because the Earth being flat concept in most people's minds, they think about outer space with a flat frisbee or pizza and then water falling off the edge of that, and which is completely not what anyone who knows that the Earth isn't a globe is thinking. You know, we're all thinking we don't know what's outside of the realm that we're living in. We think that there has to be a containment because that's thermodynamic laws, that if we want to have a pressure system such as we live in, you have to contain it.
Yeah.
And so we don't make claims about what's outside of this home of ours, this realm of ours. We believe that we can only travel 100 miles up and 8 miles down, and maybe a few thousand miles east, west, or south or north of where we are. And then we reach either conditions that are too harsh for us to travel, or we're limited by the Antarctic Treaty from traveling too far from the land, or there are restrictions to how far we can go, because simply the further you go away from Africa, or the further you go away from the center, which I believe to be Africa, then the colder it gets, and eventually it becomes so cold it's just ice, and there is nothing we can do to travel through that place.
Right. Okay, but have you seen any of those videos where they people launch rockets?
Yeah.
The sort of I suppose they're not homemade, but they're, what do you call them? Amateur rocket launches.
Like a go fast rocket.
And
the silver one that hits the roof. Is that the one that seems to hit the roof?
No, the one where it goes up and you see you see the picture of the Earth, and the Earth is curved.
Yeah.
So do you think that they faked that picture, or was that the footage? Do you think?
Two possibilities there.
Yeah.
One, we're believing that what we're seeing is this curvature, but they use a fisheye lens typically.
Yeah.
And a fisheye lens will always bend the horizon. But also, if you use a wide-angle lens and you just go off the balance of horizon, it'll either convex or concave the picture that you see. So that's not good evidence itself. And Neil deGrasse Tyson, a very famous TV scientist or evangelist for scientism, he says that at 150,000 feet, even Felix Baumgartner, when he did the Red Bull jump, wasn't high enough to see the curvature of the Earth. And actually, when you watch that jump of his, as he leaps out of the cupola, you can see from the camera that's set behind him that the horizon in front of him is just level and rising to your eye level. And that's always what the horizon does, is it always rises to your eye level. So there's plenty of airline pilots on record now on YouTube saying, no, there's no curvature. We don't allow for any curvature. We fly flat and level. 2016, I took a digital spirit level, and zeroed it on the plane before we took off, and I watched it the whole flight. And our nose stayed at 1.5 degrees nose up, which is to prevent us from dropping to the ground. And then we stayed for like that the whole way over to France. And then only in the last bit to settle did they drop it down to 0.5 degrees of nose up, and that's how we descended.
Right, but here's I suppose the easier one is, has anyone tried from Dover to see the beach at Calais?
Yeah, you can. It's a matter of very popular thing. On a clear day, you can see from Calais, you can see the White Cliffs of Dover.
No, but I mean
the
beach.
All of it.
The beach.
All of it, the whole 300 feet. And by the way, the distance between those two should have more than 300 feet of Earth curve in it. So none of the White Cliffs should be visible from France. But we can see all of them from France. Yeah, absolutely. And guys have done much further experiments. One of the most famous ones is over Lake Michigan. From 50 miles, they can see Chicago on a clear day.
Yeah, that's not that far.
What? That's further than from Calais to Dover
but they say they can see Chicago, but they're talking about the buildings.
Yes.
But I'm talking about the actual yellow of the beach, the bottom.
Yeah, well,
bottom
I mean,
part.
okay. Look, when you're at sea level, when you're really close to the ground, you do get obscuration at the lower levels. You know, everything is compressing, as you know, like with the train going off in the distance, right? It's compressing, getting smaller. The tracks look like they're coming together, but you know that they're not. So that compression is occurring. The lower you are, the more that compression is happening at the bottom. But if you take, say, a hot air balloon and go up to 100 meters, all of a sudden that compression goes away, and you can see the whole of the image for another 5 miles. You know, if you're looking at a ship going away or something like that. So your your low angle, let's say you were looking at a painting and you said, oh, you can't stand in the middle of the painting, you have to stand right at the very bottom. You know that's going to limit your view of it. But if you got to stand in the middle, well, because when we're standing right on the beach, the picture in front of us, we're right at the bottom of the picture. We're on the ground floor of a very massive panorama of sky going up 5 miles or higher, perhaps.
Yeah.
You know, because you can see planes at that height flying by in your scene, right? So your scene is very high, but you're right at the bottom of it. Now, if you had to go up to, say, a mile of height, all of a sudden you're starting to level up with the picture that you're looking at, and now you can see into the 50 miles of range. In fact, the world's furthest acknowledged photograph over water is about 250 miles of Mount Carrigu, which is an island off of France that you can only see 2 days of the year when the sun silhouettes, as it sets, it silhouettes it. And so you can see this from 250 miles away.
Right.
There are limits to our vision, and I think these have been used to say, well, because you see this, that means that. This is what you're seeing. But we can explain pretty much all of that.
Yeah, well, I suppose if that's a more ambiguous one, I suppose a more well-defined one is, if I was to look up on the internet, you can go and find webcams of cities.
All right.
So if I go here and I can see it's daytime.
Yeah.
So if I calculate, okay, I know it's a globe, I know what time it is, so I know the sun's shining at this angle. So these cities on the globe will be in darkness because the sun's rays will be blocked.
Yeah.
So if I looked up those webcams for those cities, I found they were dark, and then looked up some which on the globe should see the sun, and they were light, what conclusion should I come with to?
I'm not sure really, other than it's still light in a place, and the globe says maybe it should be dark. But I think some of the things don't quite make sense on the globe model that we're sold about. You know, it's rotating once a day, and that bringing it into the sunlight and so on. Because it's meant to be rotating at about 1,000 miles an hour, which means the terminator line of shadow and light should be moving at about 1,000 miles an hour. But when you watch the sun lazily move over your head and the shadows lazily move by, that doesn't seem like it's moving anything like 1,000 miles an hour. So the flat Earth, a lot of people say against the flat Earth. How does it work if there's a sun above a flat Earth? Why doesn't it illuminate the entire Earth simultaneously?
Yeah.
Well, the simple answer to that is that the illumination potential of a very much smaller sun than the one we're told is 93 million miles away is actually that it is only able to illuminate a part of the land masses or the known Earth at any given time. It still can be doing some sort of travel over a 24-hour journey over the land, which brings the morning rise and the afternoon set. But that doesn't negate it being possible. Just because we have this idea that the sun is 800,000 miles wide or whatever.
All right. So what about if obviously to do this experiment you'd have to have people on site in each of the towns, well, the cities, I should say. If you get them to, or do you believe in if someone anywhere in the world, if they get a compass out, do you believe that the compass always does point north?
No, it doesn't.
Okay, so
in Cape Town, for example, you've got a 25-degree declination, and as you travel up the east coast of Africa, that declination gets softer and softer and softer until eventually it's about 8 degrees, something like that. So it doesn't matter where you are. I mean, the further you are closer to the poles, the less well the compasses work. And so the story that the compass is always pointing towards some magnetic north and so on doesn't bear our real world experience.
Right. So okay. So if we just stick to towns which are on the equator, and so we try and find people who are in different towns which are spread around the globe in a decent sort of spread, and then you get them to put a pole, hope the sun's out, which it should be in the tropics. And then they put a compass beside the pole, and then you look at the angle that the sun is coming down at the pole. If you then calculated from all of those angles that, it must be a globe, what would you think about that?
Yeah, that's a 2,000-year-old experiment that was done by a guy apparently with a similar idea. But that presupposes the globe, you see.
No, No,
because if I took your example and took like a very powerful street light that was here in London, and then I put pegs at 10-meter intervals away from that, you would expect those shadows to be longer the further I got away from this light source. Yes.
Yeah.
So that's all happening on a flat environment. So what is Aristophanes? What he came up with was a so-called proof that we live on a globe, but it's a proof that you might have a small light source, and that if your friend in Alexandria and me over in Cairo at the same time go out and measure the sun, yes, well, it might be directly overhead for me, but that means that it's equivalent to 11:30. Let's say the sun's at my 12 o'clock directly above me position. He's west of me. He's about half an hour sun movement away. So his shadow is going to be longer because he's not got the sun directly above him. Right?
But I don't mean you. I mean you actually measure the angle of because then the angles will tell you the difference between something flat and something curved.
No,
because
I don't
the
think
sun's rays are straight. So you get a different. So you're saying the sun's rays aren't straight?
Have you seen crepuscular rays?
Huh?
Crepuscular rays, have you seen those?
No, I haven't heard of them.
Okay, but you've seen them, because you think about, like I say, it's a cloudy day where the sun's just up in the clouds, and you see this sort of pyramid or triangle shape of light coming through the clouds.
You mean that sort of
it's almost like the light of God, that image of like a pyramid almost, and these are called crepuscular rays.
Right.
And the best example I can give you to sort of associate this conversation is to say that when you look at the moon on a cloudy night, and say you can see the moon enough through the clouds, but it's only illuminating the blanket of clouds for about a mile around your head. Yeah? As you look further away from you, 5 miles into the distance, the clouds are actually black. Dark.
Yeah.
But now if your friend is standing 5 miles in that direction and you ask him to look up into the sky, he will tell you that the moon is lighting the cloud just above my head, but not where you live.
Yeah, it would do. Because
no, because if this is a parallel body of light coming in, one moment, where it's a parallel body of light coming in, then if I took a sheet as an example and I put a powerful light against that, I'm lighting up that whole sheet. I'm not just lighting up a hot spot where you happen to be standing.
Yeah, but remember, as you travel, because of where
you haven't traveled though. We got two observers in two different places, having two different experiences of that light source.
Yeah, but remember, the two different people, the light that they're seeing from the light source is coming at a different angle for each of them.
No, you just said it was coming parallel.
No, the light is parallel to them.
But parallel to the whole Earth. I know obviously the moon is smaller than the Earth, but according to the mainstream model, the sun is 800,000 miles across, something like that. And so what comes to us is meant to be this parallel curtain, if you like, or wall of energy or light. So there should be no hot spotting, there should be no local effect. It should be, we are all seeing this wash of light. But when you stand on the beach and watch the sunset, the sunlight's coming right to your feet, bro. But 50 meters down the beach, somebody else with his girlfriend, he's going, look, the sunset's coming right to our feet. Yeah, because it's an individual light sort of experience that you're having with I believe, an energy wave, and that depending on your position, it triangulates around you. It always triangulates you. If you've ever traveled against the moon and watched it on a train, I have, watched it on a train, how it just follows you. It just seems to follow through the clouds or whatever. It just kind of follows with you. Yeah, it's tracking you. The sun that you see is tracking you. Okay.
It's nice to meet you, but will you promise to read this if I give it to you?
I will promise to read it.
Right.
Thank you. Tell me your name before you go.
Jill.
The Value of a Soul. Thank you, Jill. It's been lovely talking to you.
Bye-bye. Are you going to come here again?
Oh yeah. This is my first visit of the year, but I'll be back. I'll see you again, Jill. Yeah, so I believe, obviously what we're taught, I understand what you're taught, because for 47 years I was on the globe, man. I believe the moon landings and all of that stuff. So I know the science. In fact, when I first found this in 2015, I had to go back and relearn my science just to make sure that I wasn't being hoaxed and fooled once more. But let me tell you that all my observations since then have proven to me that this place that we stand on doesn't spin, doesn't move. And there's no science experiment that will prove that is moving. Even Einstein himself said that there's no birth-bound experiment that can be used to demonstrate Earth's movement.
Right.
That's the one thing. The second thing is that water, we know, must be contained. If it doesn't be contained, it runs downhill. But when it is contained, it'll settle always level. A little meniscus on the side for surface tension, but otherwise it's level, no matter the size of the container. So why, if it's a bath or an Olympic swimming pool or a massive lake, Kariba or Lake Victoria or one of the Great Lakes in America, which is where they've taken this photograph of Chicago from 50 miles, which should have over nearly 2,000 feet of curvature, so all of those buildings should be obscured. That we can repeatedly demonstrate how these things are a trick of the eye, and those tricks have been used to kind of make us believe that everything is, we're insignificant, and we're within some kind of lucky strike Big Bang, rather than we are the center of creation, and that we should not have government and religion shackling us down and making us feel small.
Right. So going back to the one where I said about the webcams at different times of day.
Yeah.
So when the different people look.
One more thing before I go. My friend has just been telling about you, and she said, oh, well, he ought to have this as his song. The rain in Spain falls
mainly on the plane. Indeed, on an aeroplane too. Yes, and NASA have got documents. NASA and the US military have got the documents that have been leaked or come out that show that what they're doing is they're building fixed wing aircraft to work over a stationary, non-rotating Earth. That's how they build.
Yeah, but one,
go back to your question.
Yeah, I'm more trying to go with experiments that normal people can do, where we don't need a government to test it.
Yeah.
So
you mean like water running uphill? Well, water running uphill and clinging to the underside of a globe, you can't test that, but you believe it.
Well, it depends on what underside is, though, isn't it?
Does it?
Who determines what is up?
Your senses would tell you. If I turned you upside down, you would know immediately that you were upside down.
Right.
If you were on a plane and the plane dropped a little bit, you would know that. Yes,
right.
Yes. You went on a fun fair ride, you would immediately know if your body was taken from the normal perpendicular to anything other than perpendicular. Your body is so finely tuned that the moment you start losing balance, your body immediately is starting to allow for that, to put your foot backwards so you don't fall over. Immediately. But we're told that we can walk down the side of Africa, even fly down in 11 hours and change our perpendicular by 90 degrees and not notice a thing of it. I can't measure it on digital instruments. The gyroscope won't show you that you've changed your aspect by 90 degrees. Like I say to people, like if Africa was here, right, on the side, of the globe, and hot air was to rise up away from the globe, from the surface, because it's not attracted by gravity anymore, or helium, rise up, why doesn't it just continue going up around the side of the globe until it gets to the very top of the globe, which should be really what is the top?
Yeah, but then if we go by...
This you can't test, brother. What you're about to offer me is, but because if maybe. You can't test what you're about to say to me. I'm telling you that I can prove to you that water is level. That's a proof that you and me can do. In fact, when you were a 3-year-old kid, you knew that if you had a little boat in your bath, that water had to stay level, otherwise the boat would turn over. Yes. And it would always stay level.
Right, but
that you can test for yourself. So if I made your bath 1 quadrillion times bigger, are you going to tell me now that bath surface is going to start forming a ball?
No, because the gravity.
Huh?
So you believe? So what do you think it is? So you believe gravity?
Gravity is given to you by the white man scientists, bro.
Oh,
Let me tell you, that's okay. All Jesuit.
Right. So what is it that holds the water down inside the bowl then?
Its own density. Remember that we're in this moment in time, we're in an environment of air, all right? If we filled this Hyde Park up with water, you and me would float above it, right? Because we are less dense than the water. Yes.
But I'm trying to work out what makes it go in that direction.
Because it is more dense than the air.
Yeah, but something has to determine the direction.
Well, because on a flat Earth, it's very easy. On a flat Earth, there is only one up and down. So gases and hot things rise up, and cold things and heavier things settle down. And the water will go down so level, will go down and fill the bottom of the pool. But if I drop something heavier than the water, like an anvil, then that would go to the bottom and displace the water at the bottom, the dirt, the sand, things like stones. They would displace water and push the water up, yes? Because they're heavier and more dense than the water.
Okay.
So things are either more buoyant or dense depending on the environment they're in.
Right, so what is it that makes the dense things go down? So you're saying density is the force?
All you need, no, there's no force. Things only get given a force. You see, everything settles in its own mean kind of density level, yeah? But when you pick up a pencil and drop it, you've already given it force by picking it up. When the apple tree draws the water off the ground and forms an apple that weighs 150 grams, it actually picked up that water off the ground. And then it broke the stem and it came back to ground, came back to its level or its density. It would float on water.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, Anne.
So I remember talking to you.
Yeah, I remember you.
My son.
Yeah, nice.
Before the lockdown.
Yeah, I remember. Can I give you my new flyer to take away? Yeah.
I've lost it.
Yes, please do. I've got your card here, but let me give you another
No,
one.
that's not a card.
There you go.
Thank you.
Yes.
Oh, is God within? Yeah, when you receive Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior,
Then
comes
he is
into your
in.
spirit.
Yes.
Yeah, God
Not
is within
until
us.
then.
If you're a born again
Yeah.
Christian, He definitely is within.
All right.
Amen.
All right. Well, I'll beg to differ on that. I think that Christ is within each of us. But we
That's
can.
the Antichrist, the fake Christ. Yeah.
okay.
So there is going to be an Antichrist if you know the Bible.
Yeah, but I think the Antichrist is the Vatican.
Well, a part of it, yeah, but that
And
he
the Vatican-
he probably
And the
is
Vatican
the
gave
false
us
the false
The
prophet.
Bible. The Vatican gave us the Bible. And the Vatican gave us, when I was 5 years old, I got my teaching through the Anglican Church. So the Vatican essentially gave me this Jesus died for my sins when I was 5. But then they also lied about the globe and all of this sort of stuff. So I think they are the Antichrist. So I'm not sure I would want to trust any
Actually,
message.
they worship Lucifer. There's nothing Christ about the Vatican inside. They deceived billions of people, led them to hell.
Yeah, and the British monarchy, have been talking about a globe. I mean, it's not just the Vatican. The Vatican are the spiritual wing.
Yeah.
Then there's the banking, and then
Yes.
there's the political.
Yeah.
So there's 3 different sides.
And there's
to it.
Washington DC, yes?
Yeah,
Which is the
yeah.
military.
Yeah, well, that's owned by the British.
Yes, because they never won their independence, like you said earlier on.
Yeah.
The Americans never did. So Washington DC, just like City of London and Vatican, is
Yeah.
outside of the
Yes,
control of the
they're
country
owned
they're in.
Yes, but
Independent states.
did you know that the Bank of England
Holds your birth certificate.
Pardon?
Your birth certificate. Yes, you know about the birth certificate scam.
No, the Bank of England, as a result of Black Lives Matter, has put on an exhibition which finishes in April on slavery, and it's absolutely amazing. They've admitted so much, but somebody I met that introduced me to it, he said that he went, and then they were very good and very honest and open. Then he went round the corner and set foot on a Rothschild setup, and all the girls began to go enemy, enemy, and so the Rothschilds have got their thing just round the corner.
Yes, but these are court Jews. They were given the rights by the Vatican to become the bankers of the world.
Who?
The Rothschilds. They're not the biggest power. The Rothschilds are like the PR department, just like the Tony Blair and Boris
what?
Johnson of the banking control cartel. So they run the banking for the system.
Well, you know, it was.
And of course, it was a
Evelyn-
Rothschild that was given Israel, right?
Yes, well, the wrong people set it up, but you see, it was prophesied that it would be set up as a nation, and sometimes God uses, the true God, uses the wrong people for his purposes, and they have been set up, but they've gone back in unbelief, but a lot of them are now believing on the truth.
I do wonder though sometimes whether the Bible isn't being used by the controllers of the world as a playbook to say this is what we must do next kind of.
Yeah, but they manipulate this false prophets. Even,
We are in the
Yeah.
Laodicean. You know the Bible a bit, do you?
It is the truth.
Well, the Laodicean age.
Observe. You have to have wisdom and discernment.
Yes,
And not be led
yes,
around by
absolutely,
men,
like sheep.
but by God.
Yes. Well, that's why I only need God. I don't need any other. Although I revere Jesus, I revere Muhammad as a speaker of man should do good and do
Well, you
right
know,
by
his
God.
wife was a Roman Catholic,
Yes.
and he doubted
Yes.
his visions, and she assured him it was okay.
Yes.
Years old.
But so
have any source material. I hope you look into that more.
That's why I think.
Revere somebody who's an absolute tyrant.
No, but again, like people will say that Jesus' message has been usurped as well. You know, I think that the message that they were bringing was one of love. Actually.
Yeah.
Yes, but love is. I mean, if you see, heaven exists and hell exists. Now, love has died to save you the penalty of your sin going to hell.
Or is it not possible that we live in heaven or hell depending on how we live our lives now?
Oh, that is ridiculous.
Okay.
Sure, I'll be.
We'll talk to you.
Yeah,
The ladies have got to go.
Anyway,
Lovely to see you again, and we'll debate some more in the
But you
future.
promised to read that.
I will read it. I promise
Yes.
you. I will.
And
Thank you.
yes, bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye bye, brother.
Where are you?
So, it's just what you're saying about the density thing. It's interesting because, so do you believe that all of the physics that they've been taught at school,
Yeah.
all those equations rely on a value for the force of gravity?
Yeah.
So you think that all of those are wrong?
Yeah.
Right.
I think all of that. I think that it's pseudoscience when you and I can't test it ourselves. So if I have to insert into my formula something that I have to just accept, just like Jesus died for my sins, I just have to accept that. Then I'm like, no, hold on a minute. That's not something that feels right for me to have to accept that, because when it comes to what gravity is, I can accept that, you know, if I lift something up, it'll fall down with a certain force depending on how high I lift it and how much weight I've just lifted, yes? That's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And the medium that it's in, if it's a vacuum, if it's this atmosphere, if it's water, if it's mercury, it's going to have a different effect on that object depending on how dense the medium is that I'm dropping that thing. The football will only go as far as the water surface. I'd have to push it down to get it underwater, and of course it's going to want to try and equalize and come right back up to its balance. Now I could do that on an Olympic-sized swimming pool, or I could do that on 1 million Olympic-sized swimming pools. It's going to be the same result.
Right. So all right. So we've got gravity, which pulls. Well, what they say is it pulls towards a larger mass.
Yeah.
But I presume that you believe in.
That's one version of gravity. There's the time and space dilation, or bending of time and space. That's the other. So there's Galileo and Einsteinian gravity. There's two competing schools of gravity, just by the way.
Right. Do you believe in centripetal or centrifugal force?
I think that you can demonstrate centripetal force by, like we were told in school, take a bit of water and string in a bucket, swing them over your head.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's demonstrating that. But even when I was 12, 11 years old, I said to my teacher, but gravity can't be the string in the bucket. But that's what we're told to believe, is that just like the string in the bucket is creating that gravitational effect. And I'm like, no, that's not right, because you know what the water is. If I put a hole in the bottom of that bucket, that water is just going to fly right out of the hole in the bottom of the bucket, right? You know that.
Right, and so there's obviously a force pulling it out. Would you say
You're
that?
creating force by spinning it.
Yeah, but you're creating a force which pulls the water out.
So if the spinning Earth, wouldn't that create a force that would want to push everything out?
So gravity is not the main force in the universe. That's correct.
Electromagnetism is the main force.
Plasma,
in fact,
plasma.
But you see, electricity and magnetism together make incredible forces, you see. And so even in quantum physics, they'll say that electromagnetism is like 1 unit of strength. Gravity is 0.0000001 strength. It is so small, it is almost not even worth talking about, gravitational force in quantum physics. When they're talking about how big things work.
In the planetary is the same in the universe. So gravity is a force, but it's not the strongest force.
Yeah, no.
And so everything is also connected to electrically, like the planets and the sun.
Yeah.
And the
so for us, the planets, the wandering stars, Mercury, Mars, Venus, these are plasma or energy points that are vibrating in the firmament or in the sky at a point where we just see them as a repeating pattern of light like this. If you look at them under a powerful camera yourself, not with a computerized telescope, but with just a powerful lens camera, and I've done this myself, and all you see is this light show going, and that's all that is that it's vibration, God's vibration, in a medium creating a light. And that's what we see as the stars. But the idea that they are rocks floating, no, this cannot work. In our physics, rocks do not stay up in the sky. They always will fall down to the floor.
Well,
And
they even found out the formation of galaxies and stars.
yeah,
They used to say because of have you heard of Birkeland currents?
no.
It's a current for this scientist Birkeland.
Okay.
He discovered this current, and they found out now that planets and galaxies, they form lines, spiral lines, way earlier than what they thought, and much quicker.
Okay.
And it's
So-
related to the electrical.
Okay. Okay. Well, let me offer you this to think that. So, are you a Muslim?
Muslim,
Okay.
yeah.
So, in the Quran, it says that the sun and the moon, they're small lights, and they travel over the earth. I've had Shamsi here tell me the same thing. Agree with me? Yes. This is what it says in the Quran. So. In the Old Testament, in the Bible, it says that the sun and the moon are small lights and they travel over the earth, and they were created after the earth. Earth comes first, and then these small lights to give us night and day. So modern science has you believe that it's 93 million miles to the sun, and the sun is 800,000 miles wide. When we see what your senses tell you is a small light is in the sky, and like we were talking about the clouds, it's in the clouds just for me. There it is in the clouds, right? But over there in London, it looks dark to me. But your friend who's over there in London says, no, it's just in the clouds for me. You see, so the light show that you're seeing in the sky is like a personal thing, and that the stars are maybe hundreds of miles high, not millions of light years away and all of this sort of stuff. The sun is so close that there's guys with video footage where they can show you how the sun is playing in the clouds. It's actually playing inside of clouds. There's a guy who's flying on a plane. He's in the cockpit of the plane, and they're filming the sun just here outside of their cockpit in the clouds. It's not like it's a ball of light that's inside
it's
of
electrical charged light. Yeah, the sun. It's not. It doesn't come from the inside. They found out the sun is the most hottest on its surface.
Yes.
Not in the
core.
In the core.
Yeah.
Because
so
of the
there's
electrical filaments. You
Yeah.
know, you get electrical discharge and all these
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
I mean, exactly what the sun is and the moon are, I don't make claims about that. I used to believe in mainstream science. Yes, they know what they're talking about. Yes, they landed a man on the moon and all that sort of stuff. Now I know that all of that stuff is designed by the deceiver to minimize our connection to Allah, to God, to the source of creation. Because the source of creation, Allah, is closer to you than the jugular vein in your neck. And this is the temple of God. I think that you are a representative of Allah. Small, Allah is all. Allah is everything. But we are God's creation inside of that. And this science wants you to believe that we came from monkeys. I know Muslims don't believe that.
There's no point. Everything is random.
Yeah. It's nothing for it. I don't have a soul. That there isn't like an eternal story going on here. That I'm connected to eternal.
Actually, if you follow the mainstream science, they don't believe. They believe the universe is not only created randomly out of nothing.
Yes.
But it's like a mechanical robot.
Yeah.
There's no spirit. There's no spirituality
Yes.
in nature.
Of
There's
course.
a spirituality.
Yes. And there's no spirituality in saying to people, I know you don't believe this, but I used to believe this, and most people in the Western world believe that we evolved from apes. And before that, the apes were something else, and then eventually fish, and then we came out of the sea. Well, this is against God. Because Allah had the intention to create something, it would create it perfect. Not throw a bomb into a scrapyard and hope the Ferrari is going to come out the other side.
Yeah, if you
never
look
going to
into
happen.
the universe, it's awesome. It's
beautiful.
It's beautiful.
And we
It's
come
so
from
complex.
beauty. We come from love. You see, and you guys know this a lot in Islam. But
I think in Islam they should educate. I think most Muslims, they accept the Big Bang theory and blindlessly, you know.
Yeah.
But if you look closely into, because we as Muslims believe there's a direct line with the heavens.
Yes.
But if you follow the Big Bang theory, you're going back in time.
Yeah,
you're dealing with black dark matter and dark energy and all these.
And it also makes God far away, that there could be light years between
light
here
years
and
away,
when it's all here. It's all actually very, very close. The sun and the moon are close, the stars, even the galaxies. What they say in the mainstream is that their telescopes can see light years away. Well, I think their telescopes can see thousands of miles, but not light years. So when they see it, the original galaxies were seen with telescopes that they were so simple. They can't see those that far away. So I think that these things are actually, they're there, but they tell you that they're millions of light years away, and there's other life living on them, but it's actually just light and energy having a vibration. In the same way as your body has got different chakras or energy points, where there's the heart and the liver, they have their own frequency.
We are electrical beings.
Yes.
Our heart is electrical, our
Yes.
brain is electrical.
Yes.
everything
Yes.
is electrical. Yeah.
We can bring you back to life with an electric shock, or kill you with an electric shock. You know,
yeah.
so we are all electrical systems, but inside of your body, you've got the one big system, but inside of it, you've got smaller systems that are controlling different parts of your body. Yeah, and they want to, in the same way as in the microcosm, this is happening. In the macrocosm, this is happening. So Saturn, Mercury, Mars, Venus, these energies are mimicked in the small version inside of you. This is why when you are born, the time you are born, this has a bearing on the kind of personality that you are, because you are born under certain energy, Saturn energy, maybe under Aquarius, or all of these sorts of things. It actually has a bearing on you, because when we look up in the stars, we are looking at Allah's creation.
Of course.
This is Allah's creation. When I look in the mirror and I look at you, I'm looking at Allah's creation, you see. But you are the microcosm inside of the macrocosm. This is what I got here. You are
the Taurus. Is that the Taurus? What's that?
this is an electromagnetic Taurus, like an apple.
Yeah,
and you and me are the same, where you are a Taurus, the small apple, and our whole universe is one big apple, and we are inside of that, walking inside of that apple.
So you believe, then you probably also believe you have your physical body,
Yes.
but then you have
The higher body.
but like the electrical
Yes.
that's connected to the
Yes.
ether and the,
Yes, to the ether, for sure. And I say, like the fun fair, they have those little cars you can ride, and they have a little metal probe on the roof.
Yeah.
We're like that. We have this connection to God
Antenna.
with
We have
the antenna. Through the pineal.
Because actually, I don't know what you think about these pictures. You say it's fake?
Well,
I'll be back, yeah?
Yeah, cheers, brother. Salam alaikum. So I think that one is that's probably not a that's probably not.
The two on the
These,
left.
yeah. So is it possible that if I was trying to convince you that there was an international space station, that I might dress up a U-2 bomber, which, by the way, people didn't even know the B-52 bombers and all these things were even in existence. What if they were flying at 60,000 feet and they had lights on them to make them look like they were the ISS, and they could tell you that your ISS is flying overhead of you tonight? Let me ask you you're a smart guy, so let me ask you to think about this. The ISS is flying at 250 miles high. Yeah, you know that. That's 400 kilometers. Bro, you can't see a city from 400 kilometers or 250 miles away. Yeah? You can't see a city from 250 miles. How are it possible that you're going to see a thing as smaller than a football stadium at 250 miles moving at 19,000 miles an hour? I do not think that this is possible. I do not think that the materials that they made the ISS with are able to withstand the conditions that they tell us are in the thermosphere and all these places that the ISS is meant to be traveling. Let me offer you also, if you're bringing up the ISS, that we never saw it being built on the ground. Just like we never saw the lunar lander effectively working on the ground. They never got that thing to fly on Earth. So they just flew it to the moon and said, it'll probably work because there's less gravity there to worry about. They've never shown us video of the ISS being constructed on the ground except in a swimming pool.
Right, so what do you think Ralf was looking at then?
Who?
What, the guy who actually observed it, Ralf?
I think that he's looking at some kind of satellite trick. So it could be that they're using like some kind of, what's it called? Project Bluebeam. Project Bluebeam is a thing that take a flyer. Have a flyer. Take some information. So they could be flying, like I said, a plane that they have filled with that they have put some panels on. But the idea that you could see a light source at 250 miles, the furthest that we can see a lighthouse is 80 miles.
Yeah, but remember what it's been illuminated by according to physics.
What?
The sun. That's pretty bright, isn't it?
But you took that photo at night. That would be in the shadow of the sun. How can at 250 miles you be out into the light?
No, this was 360. It's 360 miles?
Let me ask these children.
Yeah.
Does anyone speak English here? No. Yeah? No, I don't speak English. He already knows speak English. Let me tell you guys that we've been lied to about where we live. We can't prove that we live on a spinning ball. Everybody knows that the lake and the bath water is level when it's at rest. So the idea that if you let it get big enough, it's going to start curving round cannot be demonstrated. It cannot be proven. So we say that the sea is level and that the Earth is not moving. It is the sun and the moon that move and the stars that move over our head. Earth is flat. La Terra piatta. La Terra plana. Don't believe the NASA propaganda. Don't believe the NASA propaganda. God is with you. Spanish. La Terra plana. You can't fly up a... Water will fall off. Oh well, good luck. There's a nice little hit there. A few students, I've got to spread the word. That's what I'm here for. It's nice having a deeper conversation with you, bro. But I do obviously need to try and spread the word as much as I can. Thanks for stopping in. If you're here, hey, Underground, you coming around today, or Kevin Wilder, Gordon Zola, Squirrel Sniper? Hey, brother. So I hope all is good there in the chat room. I haven't been able to. I'm talking to this gentleman here, trying to convince him to review everything that he believes. I hope you guys are having fun in there. It's quiet for me today, but it's good to be out here, and it will build up a head of steam. I know that it's going to be an interesting summer. Next month I got some interesting stuff coming up. I want to give these ladies a fly over there because they've caught a sign of my thing. Don't walk away.
اوكي ما بصارخ عليك ما بسوي انا انت قلت دائما انا بعمل انا
Hit that like button though. Thanks for those who have. See, there's 54 likes in the room. And sub to my other channel, the Trinities, if you don't mind, because who knows, I almost every day I kind of go, not every day, but it's like a constant concern nowadays that this channel gets washed away, and another year. I've been a year and a quarter since I started this one up, and it does take a long time. I'm grateful to have reached 1,200 subs. So if that's one of you, then, well, probably most of you are subbed, but thanks anyway for the subbing. We're building back up again. We're at about 33% of the last channel size, so couldn't help myself. It's cold today. Not as cold as it was the other day. So yeah, so what's your next
well, I was just going to say, you should
defense of things that you and I can't test ourselves?
No, you should look up this Ralf Vandebergh. It sounds like he's actually a big name in observing spacecraft with satellite.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I don't deny that I've seen some things in the sky that don't make sense, or I could write them off as satellites and that kind of thing. But when you really start to look into the ISS, you go, shit, man, it's very possible that they're doing this whole thing through sound staging, through using the Vomit Comet, that plane that can simulate 0G for 45 seconds at a time, and also when they do a spacewalk, that they're doing it in the same swimming pool that they do the testing in.
Oh, but what do you think about the 0G though? Well, what do you think causes that?
Well, simply it's that you're falling faster inside of the craft than you would normally fall under terminal velocity. The craft is falling so fast that you basically can essentially float. It's what seems like floating, really, isn't it?
But then, how would density then affect? How would it change inside the craft? Because it's a sealed craft.
Yeah.
So the density inside the craft will be exactly the same, no matter what speed they're going.
Well, have you done much flying in planes?
Yeah,
Why do they get you to wear a seatbelt?
Oh, because if it finds a pocket of of air where it drops. You
Yeah,
float
well,
up, don't you?
Exactly.
Yeah.
You've answered your question.
Yeah, because that's
You've answered your question.
Yeah.
And you know, if they don't pull that plane up after 45 seconds, maybe a minute, it's going to smash into the ground so hard they won't even be able to get a piece bigger than a matchbox.
Yeah, but I still don't see what that has to do with. Because remember, you said it was density that makes the heavy.
Yeah, but
item.
you're temporarily overcoming that in the same way as you are when your plane hits an air pocket. Your density in the seat all of a sudden goes away as the plane drops beneath you.
But it doesn't. Remember, density is a static property.
Okay, but
that's related to temperature, isn't it? So something that's hotter, the density reduces because it expands.
Yeah, that's right. That's why hot air balloons work.
Yes, so it's only temperature that can make density change.
No. Well, okay. So let's not use the word density in terms of my density and my buoyancy. Let's use buoyancy rather, because my density may not change, but my buoyancy and your buoyancy would change if we jumped into a swimming pool, right? And if we jumped into the Dead Sea, which is very salty, our buoyancy would be super great. I've done that myself actually. So I float much higher on the water in the Dead Sea than I do in the normal sea.
Right.
Then the salinity will have an effect on my buoyancy. We know that. So my buoyancy is affected by the general atmosphere around me or the environment around me. So if it was water, I float. If it's air, I stand on the ground. I go to the ground. So in a plane, there's sort of you haven't really changed that. You're staying at the same level until the plane hits an air pocket, and then all of a sudden the plane has dropped beneath you more quickly than you can return to the plane floor. But you will very quickly return to the plane floor, right? And that will be. But you're sort of cheating the natural physics of falling by the plane falling faster than you would fall. So the plane's taking the hit, if you like, and then keeping you, instead of simply as you do in a plane that hits an air pocket, you sort of briefly leave the seat just for a split second, right? And then you're back down in it. What they're doing is they're going into an air pocket and lasting for 45 seconds, and they're creating that sort of neutral buoyancy, if you like,
right?
By what you admit by flying the plane downhill, flying into the ground essentially.
Right. So with that change in density.
No, I didn't say change in density.
Oh, right. Change in buoyancy. Yeah. Whatever.
Yeah.
Do you know of any formulas that can be used to calculate that?
But I also know, well, not formulas, but I know experiments that can be shown to demonstrate that. When you take like different liquids, oil and washing up liquid and water, and you put these into a test tube, they will all settle at their mean buoyancy level, right? Depending on their density, the heaviest ones will go to the bottom and the lightest ones will go to the top. And then you can take objects like a bolt, an iron bolt,
and it will fall through.
Some things will fall through. Some things will stop partway down. And some will float right on the top. Really. And that's all to do with the environment or the medium that they're in and their natural buoyancy. So the most buoyant things are going to float, and the most dense things are going to go to the bottom.
Right. So if you know we got in the world, we have the Americans and Chinese are sort of enemies. The Russians are enemies. So if all three of their scientists do independent experiments, and they want to do the plane, with the people floating in the plane. If all of them independently said, well, this scientist said that that this what's it called? Something called gravity is 9.8 meters per second. So then they say, okay, so all we got to do is get a plane to accelerate to that speed, and they should float. So if all three of them did that experiment and found that the people in the plane did float, then would there be a conspiracy? Would you say that all three of them conspired to?
I think that works. I don't think that's a conspiracy.
But
you can overcome that. Like you said, if it's 9 meters per second, if you can fly downhill at 9 meters per second, then essentially you would be taking away that force if you were inside of that craft.
Yeah, the problem is you have to accelerate at that speed. So that's the reason why they can only do it for such a short, because you have to accelerate at that speed in order to have
they have
zero.
to fly down. But I mean, once they fly this parabola, and once they get to the top of it, they're going down. Now we reach, and you see it. The guys that have done, I've watched the videos of them doing it, and then as they go down, then it takes a little while, and then they start to get lighter and lighter and lighter, and now they're able to float for a little while. But they can't control it perfectly. They're bouncing off the roof, and it's not. it's not perfect, but it's interesting that you bring these three nations up, Russia, China, and America, because I think that they pretend to be at war with each other,
right?
Because they are at the space race level in cahoots. That they all know that they can't get out of this place, and that the people who run the show have been pretending that there is an outer space with aliens and all of that kind of frightening stuff for a few centuries now. And the idea that there were dinosaurs and evolution, and the dinosaurs went away under some meteor coming in, all part of the same science. Not all of these countries follow that science necessarily, but the idea that there's the Russian space agency, the Japanese space agency, Chinese, and so on, means that they are at the top table. You could step away from Ukraine versus Russia, and Russia versus the West, and China versus everybody else. You can step away from that because you know that these are all paradigms getting us at war with each other and fearful of each other, and they justify more military spending, more controls and limitations on your movement, and more taxes, by the way, as well. So there's a whole lot of benefits to the people who run the system to have this idea that we're at war with Russia and war with other people, and yet they will still carry the American space astronauts up to the space, to the ISS on their Russian what do they call it? I forget now. But so they still will help each other in space, but they'll be in war on the ground.
Right. So
makes no sense.
So I suppose going past all what we're talking about, what difference does it make whether it's flat or a globe?
Good question.
Yeah.
Well, on a flat Earth, there could be a lot more continents. There could be other lands. The hidden lands of what's it called? My mind's gone blank.
Like Atlantis.
Yeah, all of that could be. There could be other continents, and in fact, there's an American admiral on records who spent the 1930s and 40s and early 50s exploring Antarctica. Admiral Byrd, famous for having charted parts of the North Pole, apparently.
Yeah.
He is on record saying, I found land bigger than America and resources that would last humanity for centuries. And then soon after saying that, they locked Antarctica down with the Antarctic Treaty. So you and I can't travel past the 70th parallel. Commercial flights don't travel down that way, even though it would be quicker for a plane to fly under the Antarctic to South America from Australia, for example. And we don't do any research for mining. We don't do any of that stuff, and even though we've been told that there's more land. So I think one of the tricks of the globe is that it hems you in. It's a prison because you can't leave it, and you can't go anywhere other than the places that they told you exist. This is one of my hypotheses, and a lot of evidence has come to light that there are ancient people who talked about Shambhala or other places that were outside of our place that either we've been to, or at certain times we could have traveled to or could travel to, or is closed off for now. But there is the prospect on a flat Earth that there's a lot more land. That's the one thing. The other thing is that just like in religion, they give you religion gives you a Vatican. Religion gives you a control center that needs to do the thinking for you, needs to take tithes from you, and needs to tell you what to think and how to be and all that sort of thing. Well, this science that has us coming from monkeys and Big Bang and all of this kind of thing, that actually reduces the creator's place in all of this, So for me, when I found flat Earth, it was one of the first things I was like, wow, maybe there is a God, maybe there is a creator to this place, rather than, because Big Bang is not a God creation. Big Bang is just lucky strike. Big Bang is allowing monkeys to, become monkeys to then eventually turn into man.
Right, but I don't see why God would be out of it if it's a globe. I'm not sure why he'd be out of it then.
Well, because globe only comes from the Big Bang. Globe cannot exist without the Big Bang theory. It's like, how does the globe come to coalesce under its own mass around a sun that formed from a previous sun that was dust from something else billions of years ago? That's got nothing to do with a creator saying, hey, I'm going to design something beautiful. That's like saying, as I said earlier on to a guy, that's like saying I'm going to throw a bomb in a scrapyard in a DC 10 aeroplane is going to come out the other side.
Yeah,
Impossible.
atheists love using that one. No, sorry, it's the Christians that use that one against the atheists, isn't it?
Oh,
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So how could you? Yeah. How does that? That doesn't speak to a God. That speaks to random. And they tell us we're in a Goldilocks zone. We're just so lucky to be in this place from the sun. If we're any closer, we'd fry. If we're any further away, we'd freeze. All of that sort of stuff. No, that's not creation.
Oh, all right. So it sounds to me so it's more of a being against what science are pushing rather than. So, because it doesn't seem as if the fact that it's a globe gets in the way of like trying to go for freedom. I don't see.
But maybe you're heading the wrong way for freedom
Right.
when you still believe you're in a globe. See, because the globe still gives authority. Most people who believe in a globe but hate the system will still give this government some props. You know, when I say no, these governments are simply, you know, the toy boys of the world, whoever runs the world. The governments are just the PR department of some superpower that controls the world. Same with religion. I give religion short shrift because I know that these religions have been designed to minimize you, to minimize me, to say that we aren't that important, rather than, wow, what if God breathed life into you intentionally to come as you are, not wait for billions of years for big bangs and monkeys and all of that nonsense. So no, I think that it puts our centrality into sovereignty right at front at the table. It says, no, we are meant to be the sovereign beings. Anything that's created by a man is subject to my sovereignty.
Right.
I should not have to bow to any authority here, whether it be Jesus, Muhammad, Boris Johnson, Donald Trump, Putin. All of these people are in the same kind of game to control your progress, your soul progress.
Right, but don't you find it interesting? Because I tried to speak this to someone else, that the fact that the people who are rich they seem to be able to like control things. You know how now we have things like the price rises.
Yeah, World Economic Forum and
but it's the fact that when the prices go up, the people just seem to mindlessly accept it. So do you?
Same with the nappies on the face thing in 2020.
Yeah, but when we read in the Bible and it explains about like Satan and how he could deceive people, that seems an explanation which can give us some information about what's happening. But if we don't use that explanation from the Bible, what would you then use to explain why is it people seem to be so easily manipulated?
I think that we've fallen for the deadly sins, greed, sloth, envy, all of this kind of stuff. So
but
we're kind of, well, I mean, if I'm right, if these theories are right, that we have been cyclically and over time we've been wiped out. Whatever was here over time has been taken away, and then new people have been repopulated onto the lands with a whole culture and a education system designed to steer their minds. So when we go to school, you're being trained like a dog to behave and to follow and to follow orders and stay in line, as it were. And even those who choose to go against that are still being programmed to be inside it, even though they hate as I said earlier, even though they may hate the system, they're still being trained by that, like a puppy. Even if you beat on that puppy, it'll still come to you for food. You see, and so that's what they've done to mankind, is that they've whipped us with all sorts of dogma and restrictions and limitations and shortage and hardship, such that we would go along with the things that they, like I said to people, if I came to your village and said, I'm a security firm, and you said, we don't need your services, sir, I said, because we got no crime here, and I brought 3 of my bad boy friends next week in the nighttime to create crime for your town. Then I visit you a week later and you say, we got money for you, we need your security, yes?
Yeah, but you realize in that situation there's something that's missing though. So if you have your peaceful town, what you also need is to have like a force which operates there, which tries to keep the stability, so to counter anything that can come in.
I get that, but I think that and that's good, But the thing is that force should be there to protect the town, not to protect the mayor of the town.
Yeah, but you see,
not to protect the biggest owner of a factory in the town, yes?
Yeah,
the corporation. Because that's what our corporate police now do, is they protect the corporations. You and me as free men do not get protection the same as the corporation gets. So that's why when the corporation says, I'm going to mandate that you have to take a needle in the arm or a mask on your face, you got the boys in yellow here, the policy orificers, they're forcing people to do that stuff, yeah? That's against God, that's against your free will, but they're doing it for the corporation.
But I don't know if you notice how they did it, because they, what they know is that they can't just force the people directly, you have to use their employers to do it. Because
corporations.
So they're employers, and then what the corporations do, if any small companies don't cooperate, you come up with a clause in the contract whereby they have to, whoever works for them has to do it. But then all of that happening, the people themselves, we can still think, and there's still a way of countering.
Can we? You see, this is what I say to people, when you get robbed of your senses when you're 5 years old, and that's what happened to you, brother. When your teacher told you at 5 years old you're spinning, but your senses aren't telling you that you're spinning, because your senses cannot detect it. Your senses you cannot trust. When they tell you that, you start to not trust yourself anymore, and you trust the teacher, because the teacher knows something that you don't know. Well, this is the lie, is that you should know everything. The truth is written on your heart, according to God. Is written on your heart, and I should not rob you of that truth. So my police force should not be empowered to rob you, and my teachers should not be empowered to rob you of your natural God-given senses. And your senses tell you that you are not moving. Your senses tell you that the water is level. But you're given an explanation as to like, oh, that ship is going away because the water is not level. And you're like, yeah, are you sure? Yeah, that's why. But I can give you other explanations, but that explanation is robbing you of your God-given senses. So now we don't trust ourselves anymore. That's why people, even though I've never seen a germ go from me to you and make you sick, people believe that even though they can't see it. Why? Because they are trusting higher authority.
But how would you explain the similar symptoms, though? Not that I'm supporting the
flu is flu, bro.
Yeah, I'm
flu.
not.
Well, when I, back in the day, in the good old days, 2019 and before, when people said I got flu, they knew what they meant. Yeah. If I said to you, I had flu, you'd like, I had flu 2 years ago. It was quite bad. Yeah. We all know what flu is. You go to bed for a few days, you feel rotten. And your body is aching and sore and sweating and all of that sort of stuff. That's flu. And we didn't need a handbook on what kind of flu is that. You need a test to what kind of flu that is. That's flu, bro.
So how would you say it was transmitted then? Or would you
it's not transmitted. Who's saying it's they're saying it's transmitted. I'm saying this belief that I could try. I went to South Africa for a year and I went around talking to the people there, and I was saying to them, listen, man, you're sitting on this taxi, like 10 people, 12 people in the same tiny little taxi that they drive around in South Africa. And you're sitting right next to the person and you're breathing in and out, and that air, the wind is going out the side of your mask and going into the side of the mask of your brother next to you. Yeah. So how is this stopping anything? If they said to me, Dave, we got no COVID in the townships and stuff like that. We don't get that yet. Because you guys are pretty robust. Your immune system is pretty strong. At the end of the day, if you're going to get flu, it's going to be on you because you spent the night out drinking, partying, or you've been eating bad food.
So you're saying it's an internal illness that just comes in?
It is your own flu, it's unique to you. But it does come in times of the year, like in the winter. Why? Because the terrain has changed. You see, it's all about, people have been bamboozled into believing germ theory. Germ theory, I'll stress the word theory, like globe theory and gravity theory, is this theory that you and I could go and visit a hotel room. You and I could go visit a hotel room, and sorry, not a hotel room. We could visit a hospital, and tonight we go home and we're sick because the people in the hospital were sick. Never happens, bro. You visit Granny in the hospital, you never used to think about whether you're going to get sick. My mother was a nurse, intensive care nurse for more than 20 years. Never thought about her bringing sickness home. Didn't matter who she saw, what kind of condition they were in, didn't bring sickness home. We do not make each other sick other than by stressing each other out, perhaps. But we cannot make each other sick. Your body is going to say every 2 years, every 5 years, it's going to say you've got some toxins. I need to kick them out. The flu. I need like a chimney flu. I need to kick it out. I need to spit it out. I need to cough it up. and your body will sweat and will cleanse itself for 2 or 3 days, 5 days, take another week or two before you're feeling strong like normal. And that's your own body coming to getting itself back right again, but that doesn't affect me.
Right. So
Terrain theory.
So would you say that all these different like biologists who are agreeing on how viruses work, just in general?
Yeah.
Would you say, so you're saying that this is some global conspiracy where they've been told?
No. You see, it doesn't have to be conspiracy. Just like with NASA, there's plenty of people and satellite engineers who will put what they believe satellites are going into outer space, but they could be on a helium balloon. The same is true with virology. Virology is one of those subjects that, again, you and I can't test that. They have to work on the basis of if this, then that. And we've never seen an atom, by the way. So the idea, we've never seen an atom. You cannot see an atom. Only in a drawing. There's pictures of drawing.
Have you heard of X-ray crystallography?
No.
All right. Yeah, that's a way they say that you can see the structure of atoms.
Okay.
But it's just a way of the way the X-rays diffract through.
Yeah. So you're saying something, and then the hypothesis is that what we're seeing, this observation, is explaining that. And okay, I'd accept that's a hypothesis, but it's not a proof. That's not to say that.
Well, they're getting an actual picture showing
of something.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, if I could capture something, because like in quantum physics, they'll tell you that, well, we can't actually take a picture of the atom. We can say that with 92% accuracy, it's going to probably be in this area here, which happens to look like a torus. But if they plot the area that it could be, it's like, oh, that looks like a torus, by the way. That looks like an apple. So it's all energy flowing, but is it like little particles of dust, tiny little particles? No, I don't think so. It's all light. It's all waves. It's all frequency. It's not dust particles smashing together and getting bigger dust particles until it becomes a fish, until it becomes a monkey, until it becomes you. No, that's not how it works. We are all frequency. We are all vibration. And so a virus might well be a particular errant vibration in your body, so that you and I might be able to take a certain test and our bodies might show up a particular vibration. Now the science boys will say, when you see this, you call it that. And same with COVID. When you see these symptoms, you can call it that. That's how they did it in the beginning.
Right, but that frequency, so you're saying that it's something which can appear in your like your nasal fluids. Because remember, you could get the nasal fluids out, put it on the dish, and sometimes the little line will show up and sometimes it won't. So
oh, you mean with that test?
Yeah, the lateral flow test.
Yeah.
So when someone does it, there's people who've taken the tests and they see different results.
Yeah.
But they're getting it from their own body, so it's not someone.
Yeah. But Kerry Mullins, you know who that is? Kerry Mullins is the guy who invented the PCR test. And he said it's not fit for what it purpose.
But still.
And we know lots of people who've had false positives, and so the test itself is so. It's so like 1960s. It's so inaccurate. It's so bullshit. I mean, a pregnancy test is far more accurate than that in terms of, and it turns out, because I'm not a studied doctor, but the doctors that I've listened to and other virologists and all of this, because I did a lot of research on it in 2020, is that one, there's no consensus in the science class. And same with true with quantum physics, and Einsteinian physics. There's no consensus. We go around like, oh, well, they say this. Well, yeah, but if you actually look, it's just like Christianity or Islam. There are so many variations of that same theme that they're not all in agreement with each other. The same is true in these biologies.
Well, it's the same thing in quantum physics as well, because you can't see it directly, so you have to, there's a bit of guesswork involved. So and there's people who in science who scoff at quantum physics, you see. So it's not like oh well, it's a done deal, it's sewn up science. And the same is true with this medical stuff, is that yes, your body is having a reaction. Some say it's because you've got an increase in spike proteins in your body. This information. So you've got these spike proteins that are being caused because your body is having an inflammatory response. Just like in the same way as your body will start to sweat when you got a fever. Your body is having a response, and because of that response, and you take a test, or you say, let's say for example, we're in a biology class and we take 100 people who've had this same response, and we test their saliva and we find, oh look, there's something similar about all of that. Why don't we call it this? Yeah, I know what you mean, because because what it is the test itself can't detect the virus.
Uh-huh.
It has to detect the response from your body.
Yeah, and and so all we're doing is we're saying your body is in a state of this, and it's creating a mark on my test.
Yeah.
I've had my nephew, he had a test and passed as positive, and he said, all I had was a scratchy throat. So, just because his body was in a particular state, it was able to give it that signal to say, yes, you got this thing, right?
Yeah.
So that's not, and then of course there's this whole school of idea that actually a virus is not a real thing. It's a little bit like gravity. Yes, there's an effect, but what is the cause of that? You could say it's called virus, but I could say no, it's because inside your body there's a little nub of something that's going wrong, and that's causing an effect, which we are now calling virus.
Yeah, it's possible. Oh, I was just going to say, you mentioned about the scoffing at quantum physics.
Yeah.
I don't know if you noticed that these electronics we've got here, they came about because of quantum physics.
Okay.
So the theories were used to know. That's how they worked out how the. I don't know if you know how transistors work. So you got the what's it called? NP. It's like you got a N. What do they call them? There's two different substrates, and they like dope them with certain. They make them so that one of them can accept electrons, and one has electrons which that comes out of it. And it was quantum physics they used to work out that this could work. And then once they invented the transistor using those theories. Yeah. And then they shrunk the transistor. Yeah. And that's when we got the CPUs.
Well, you know what? Without wanting to get too deep into that, I'll offer you this as a simile, and that is that when Marconi first fired a radio signal from England to America, or the other way around, everyone scoffed at him and said it's not going to work because it's going to smash right into the water. It's it's line of sight propagation. And so when it did work, everybody came up with this idea that it must be bouncing off something in the atmosphere, and that's how it's working. Well, this is again, it's like I could test something for years and come up with something that worked, but not know quite how it worked. And I'll say this must be how it worked because it bounced off the stratosphere. Well, we say, of course, on a flat Earth that it's going line of sight as these signals tend to travel, is line of sight. So the same is true with the Ethernet, and we live inside of an ether, which most mainstream scientists don't accept, is that we live inside of an ether. And so how these devices are connecting with each other is through propagating data packages or information through the ether. That's how these things are working. But they will have in quantum or in these other sciences, they will have a different reason to say this is why it's working. Which is not, anything to do with the ether. Yeah,
because going back to that, it says on there an electromagnetic realm. Because actually, I thought of this before we got into all these other things. Is if the realm is electromagnetic, doesn't that mean then you'd be able to detect it with a metal?
With metal?
Yeah, this electromagnetic realm.
I mean, if you put a metal rod above a roof, what happens? The lightning will strike it. So that's a big electrical arc that'll happen because you create it. In fact, we can take a thin filament and fly it up, say a mile, and on a balloon or whatever. And as we go up, we find that the charge increases by 100 volts per meter. I think that's the number. It's a while since I looked at that. But so we know that it's electrical. And we know that we live in a magnetic place because our compasses show that. Birds fly based on that. So I think that there is plenty of evidence of electromagnetism. You are an electrical system. Your heart is an electrical pump, or your blood is moved around you. In fact, a lady I used to garden for some 5 years ago, she said, my husband, he worked at King's College in London in the 1970s and early 80s, and he wrote a paper stating that he discovered that blood is electrical. And then a few months later, after publishing the paper, he was struck down by an off-duty policeman by his car, and he was never able to work and walk again. He was disabled after that.
Right.
A coincidence, I'm sure. But that we are electrical beings is, I think, quite easy to ascertain. I personally had an experience with ayahuasca in 2015, and when I was under the ayahuasca, the DMT, everything around me was, my eyes were wide open, my brain was working at 1,000,000%, and everything around me was light. in frequency of vibration. So the trees, the pool, the walls, the bricks, everything, I couldn't see it as brick or tree. It was just light, pulsing light and energy. So that sort of set me off on this discovery of, wow, is this world anything like we were taught? This material world? No, it's electricity and magnetism.
Right. So when you, I see. So when you say you just mean electrical, magnetic, or a combination of the two? Because when I see electromagnetic, I'm thinking of, when you get a coil and you put a current through it. Yeah. That's what I'm thinking of. Electromagnetic, where it pulls the metal in.
Yeah, and so those forces of magnetism and electricity are so powerful. If you've ever seen someone use like neodymium magnets and a metal ball, they can get that ball run it 100 miles an hour. As quick as that, it's gone. So there is research that I came across that you might find interesting, which has got nothing to do with flat Earth, but it's called primer fields by a guy called David LaPoint.
Right.
Primer fields, where this guy takes a glass chamber, fills it with a gas, and then takes two magnetic bowls, cone-shaped magnetic bowls, and then fires an electrical current into that. And when he does that, you get this accretion disk forming between the two magnetic bowls. And that accretion by the way, is an anagram for creation. And that accretion disk is what I believe we are standing on, between two magnetic poles, two magnetic bowls. And it requires the ether, and it requires electricity. L, the Trinity. L, the masculine electricity, magnetism, and the ether, which is the third part of it, which you need to create this realm that we live in.
Because you're saying it's
David LaPoint primer fields, PRIMERFIELDS, primer fields, and he did this. He started with this about 10 years ago.
It says 2014.
There might be some more recent videos.
Yeah.
Prime Fields by One. Yeah, go for that one. He's done some new videos. Maybe 8 years ago. We're not gonna split hairs. 2014 would be 9 years ago. So forgive me, I'm out by a year. But Primer Fields is fascinating. When you watch that, I'm like, shit, man, that could be exactly how our Earth works. And when you look at the two bowls, it's like the owl. There's so much symbology inside of those in those shapes.
Okay, wow, man, I didn't know it was this late.
Let me offer you guys some information. Take this information.
Yes, sure.